If you have over $300 to spend on a wireless microphone system, I think the DJI Mic is a worthy investment. But for about a third of the price, you can get the Comica Vimo C wireless microphone system. This is going to get you about 80% of the functionality of the DJI Mic system at around about a third of the price. It's also going to have very, very similar performance as far as the sound goes, and the range test is also very similar as well. Now, I have recently found some sale prices on both of these microphones, and I will list in the description down below the best prices that I could find on both of these systems. To start with, let's have a look at what they both have in common. With the DJI Mic, using the recharge in the case itself, you're going to get around 15 hours of battery life, around 3 recharges, where with the Vimo C, because the units themselves have a little bit longer battery life, you're going to get 20 hours. Looking at the units themselves, the transmitter and the receivers, the DJI Mic, you're going to get about 5.5 hours per charge when you've got them out of the case, where the Vimo C, you're going to get 8 hours of charge. Having said that, the DJI Mic is a more sophisticated microphone system. It's got a number of smart features, and because of that, it does require more power to operate. So you are getting longer battery life, but you're getting sort of a few less features than you are with the DJI Mic. Both of these units actually come with additional cases that go over these cases because of the fact that you can't fit the cables in and you can't fit the wind muffs in. So there's a number of little charging cables you can't fit in these. So the Comica actually comes with a semi-hard-sided case, which is actually quite nice and quite premium. The DJI comes with a little pouch. So I think this Comica solution is a fair bit nicer and gives a bit more protection than the little pouch. Having said that, the pouch takes up less room. So even though the DJI system is a little bit bigger, once you put it in its pouch and once you put the Comica in its hard-sided case, in your camera bag, they're going to be a very, very similar size. So I think it's a bit of a wash here, but just purely looking at the premium build quality, the external case or the extra case is definitely better on the Comica Mic system. Now, when we take these units out of the case, they're both going to do the same thing. They're both going to turn on their transmitters and receivers, and they are going to sync themselves together. That is one feature that you see with most of these new systems, which is great. It means you don't even have to turn them on. They just come out, they're synced, and they're working. So in that way, they're both, I would say, equally easy to use. You just put them on your talent and away you go. One thing you are going to notice with the DJI Mic system is the DJI Mic system does have a place to plug in an external microphone like a lapel mic or a lavalier microphone. That is definitely an advantage to the DJI Mic, which the Comica Mic doesn't have. Now, I think this doesn't matter if you're one of those people that was planning to use these things purely as a pinned-on lapel mic themselves, pinning them on your collar like this. But if you're actually planning on putting in a lapel mic, you're not going to be able to do that with the Comica Mic system, but you are going to be able to do that with the DJI Mic system. Having said all that, the Comica Mic system, because it is so small and light, you don't have quite the problems that you do sometimes with the DJI Mic, which is heavy, and at times it will end up sort of pulling out on the shirt like this. So it can be a bit awkward depending on the type of shirt you've got. The DJI Mic will work a little bit better if you're wearing a button-down shirt, but if you're going to actually use the transmitter on your shirt, what you're going to find is the Comica Mic is longer and lighter, and it's going to sit a lot nicer. So if you're actually going to be using it in this way, sort of on your collar like this, I think you're going to find that the Comica Mic system is probably a bit better for that. The Comica Mic system is also, the transmitters are 13 grams, but the DJI are 30 grams. Now these, the DJI Mic, these are the heaviest sort of transmitters of any microphone system I've ever tested. That does make them feel quite premium when you take them out of the box, but it also is a bit of a problem with pulling down on your shirt. I don't find that they work very well when they're pinned up on your collar. Now, DJI has offered a solution for that, and that is they have a little microphone or a little magnet that you can actually put up in your shirt, and then it clips on like this. Now this allows you to put the microphone on your shirt. This is actually a better position for audio quality as well, about halfway down your sort of talent shirt. This can look a bit weird. I think it looks even weirder than having it on the collar. It really, I suppose it's a matter of personal preference, but I do think this, and you can even see with the weight, you can see how it's kind of pulling down my shirt. But this is a function that you are getting out of the DJI Mic that you are not getting out of the Comica Mic. But in fairness, you kind of need that because it doesn't really work very well on the collar. It kind of pulls away like that. Now, both the Comica mic and the DJI mic come with windscreens that go on the top of them. That helps protect from wind noise when you're out in the field. And in my testing, they do pretty much an identical job of sort of knocking down the wind, very similar. So I don't think there's really much difference between the two in that regard. Now, both the DJI and the Comica mic come with TRS cables. This allows you to hook it directly into a digital camera, DSLR, anything that has a standard microphone input port in a camera. If you want to hook it up to, say, a smartphone or a computer or a laptop or a tablet, the DJI mic comes with a couple of adapters that actually go right into the transmitter that allow you to hook that directly in. So you'll actually plug this unit directly in to whatever smartphone or smart device that you've got. The Vimo C doesn't come with that. What it does come with is it does come with a TRRS cable, which is the kind of port that would be in your normal smartphones before they started eliminating headphone and microphone jacks. So that is going to take you to a TRS cable. You will then have to get an adapter to adapt it. The one thing that I will say about the DJI mic is even though it has these little clips that actually go on here to plug it in, you're not really going to be able to use that in your computer. You're going to have to use a separate cable to go into a computer. So this doesn't help you for that, but it does allow you to hook it sort of directly into a tablet or phone, what have you, which is fairly versatile. Once again, the Comica mic can do the same thing. You're just going to need an adapter to do that. Now, both units operate in 3 different modes. There's a stereo mode, there's a mono mode, and there's a mono mode with safety track. The stereo mode is going to take both of the transmitters and it's going to put one of the transmitters' audios on the left channel and one on the right channel. That way, when you're editing, you have the ability to raise up the audio level in one channel or decrease it on another. You have that flexibility because you might have 2 different people and one person is speaking louder than the other. So that allows you to adjust the audio levels between the sort of 2 different people once you're in editing. The other thing that it does when using it in mono mode, if you're only using one transmitter, you can have the transmitter sending the signal into the unit and you've actually got the same audio channel coming out of this transmitter going into the left and right channel. So it's just going to be the same track on left and right. And then you've got this safety track channel. That will send one channel making the audio a little bit higher and one a little bit lower in case you set your audio levels too loud and you get distortion and clipping. You can go into editing and you can use the backup track channel. So in that way, the functionality with those 3 different modes is identical between the 2 units. On the DJI mic, you are going to get a fully touchscreen, which is really cool, and it allows you to control all the functions of the microphones via the touchscreen. I find it quite intuitive, and I really, really like that function. The display on the Comica mic is still very good. It's still very bright. It's still very easy to see, but you control everything by the buttons. And there is a tiny bit of a learning curve. You have to learn or sort of read the instructions to figure out how it works, but it is reasonably simple because there's only a couple of functions and only a couple of buttons. One advantage you do have with the Comica mic is it is capable of switching the display upside down. So if you are mounting it in one position upside down or right side up, you can actually switch the display so it's right side up when you're looking at it. This is actually a problem that I've had with the DJI mic where it doesn't appear to do that, or at least I could not find the functionality, which seems a bit silly because I think it should. So I've had times where that was mounted upside down and I couldn't flip it over. So if anybody's got the DJI mic and they can figure out how to do that, let me know because I couldn't figure it out. Now, probably the biggest single advantage of the DJI system that you're going to hear people talk about is that it has internal recording. That gives you a couple of opportunities. One, it means that if you're using the transmitter and you're out and the audio breaks up, you can have a backup track in the transmitter that you can plug into your computer and you can import that audio into the computer. The other thing that allows you to do is if you don't want to use the wireless microphone system at all, you can actually use the DJI mic system as just simply an external recorder. So you simply record on here and then you sync the audio in your editing software. So that between these 2 systems, that is probably the single biggest difference to me. Now, I've got a number of systems that actually record backup tracks. To date, I've never had to use a backup track. So unless you're doing sort of professional work where you absolutely cannot afford for there to be a sort of a break in the audio or some sort of problem with the audio transmission or something you can never do again, something like weddings, for an example, I would definitely go with the DJI mic system. But if you're doing YouTube or travel or just sort of fun videos, the number of times you're actually going to get a breakup from the Comica mic system in real world use is probably going to be very, very minor. So I think that is the biggest difference between these two systems. And I think that sort of backup track is really only important for people that are doing true pro level work that you just can't go back and do it again. Now I'm going to give you the audio comparison samples between these two units. And I'm going to tell you what you're going to find is they're very, very similar. And they're so similar that I think the difference is that not one is better than the other. I think what you're going to find is which one you like better is really going to come down to personal preference. It's actually not going to come down to one being necessarily better than the other. Now, before we get to the audio comparisons, I'm just going to give you a little window into the world of YouTube and how all these review videos and things take place, because often they're review videos online that are actually supposed to be unbiased comparisons, and we know that they're actually sponsored by one of the manufacturers. So in this case, I want to disclose a very interesting situation and how I came to be doing this video. Comica reached out to me and asked me to do a review video on their Vimo C microphone system. And I said no, I just wasn't interested in reviewing a microphone system. Then they came back to me and said, we would really, really like you to review our Vimo C microphone system. And the only useful comparison that I could think of doing was comparing the DJI mic to the Vimo C mic, because the Vimo C mic to me was obviously supposed to be a budget alternative to the DJI mic. I mean, the functionality, the size, the look, they were all so extremely similar. So I came back to them and I said, yeah, I will review the Vimo C system. I don't need to be paid for the video. But if you give me the money to buy the DJI mic system to compare the Vimo C system, then I will do the video. The video will be unbiased and you won't have any say in what I say in the video. And it will be a direct comparison between the DJI mic and the Comica mic. And the reason I'd never bought the DJI mic in the past is because I have a number of wireless microphone systems that are cheaper than the DJI mic, and they've all been kind of fine. So I haven't really needed to buy the DJI mic system. So that's how this video came about, but my opinion is unbiased, and you're gonna get to see the real world results comparing these two microphones. All right, let's jump into the audio comparisons now. Now you're listening to the DJI mic. How does it sound? Listen to the sound of my voice and the details in my voice. How good are the highs? How much are we getting of the lows? And how does the environment around me sound? It is an omnidirectional mic, so we're gonna pick up pretty much everything around me. It's just a question of the quality of that sound. So right now you're listening to the DJI mic. Now you're listening to the Comica mic. How does that sound compared to the DJI mic? How does my voice sound? Are we getting all the lows? Are we getting all the highs? How do the sounds in the environment around me sound? As I said, these are both omnidirectional polar pattern microphones, which means they just pick up sound in all directions. So it's not like one should necessarily isolate the sound of my voice better than the other. It's just about how clear and detailed everything that we're hearing is and how the quality of that sound is. So right now you're listening to the Comica Vimo C mic. Now, if you noticed any difference in those two samples, what you're gonna find, because I've gone through and I've looked at the waveforms on this, what I found is at first I thought the DJI mic seemed to isolate my voice a little bit better than the Vimo C mic. It was as if it sort of filtered out some of the background sounds, even though there's no sort of noise canceling function on the DJI mic system. But when I had a look in editing, what I found is the DJI mic was a little bit more sensitive at the lower levels, so it was getting a little bit more bass in my voice. I was getting a little bit more of a sort of a radio sound, but the DJI mic was less sensitive sort of from mid-range up. So the mid-range in my voice and going to the high tones were kind of muffled. And the birds in the background sound that you were hearing that were a little bit more clear in the Vimo C were falling into that range. So it was basically accidentally filtering out some of those background sounds. Where the Vimo C, I think, had a little bit more clarity and it maybe sounded a little bit more detailed. It had a little bit less low end and it had a little bit more high end. So I think which one you like between those two is personal preference. And I actually found them to be so close that I think you could use an equalizer and edit the audio and make them sound almost indistinguishable from each other just by boosting the lows in the Vimo C and extending the highs, or vice versa in the DJI. Now we're going to do a range test, and what you're going to find, once again, the results are very, very similar. Now we're going to do a range test with the Vimo C. I'm going to walk away from the camera, and as I'm walking away from the camera, we are testing the microphone's ability to connect with the receiver without line of sight, because I will have my back to the camera. Every 10 meters, I will turn around and face the camera, and this will allow us to confirm whether with line of sight we do have connection, but we might without line of sight, because generally these microphones are much, much better when they've got line of sight. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at 10 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at approximately 20 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at approximately 30 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at 40 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we're at 50 meters. Now we're going to be doing a range test with the DJI Mic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at approximately 10 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at approximately 20 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at 30 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now we're at 40 meters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now we're at 50 meters. I don't think there's much point in doing beyond 50 meters. I am now so far away from the camera, there's absolutely no practical application that I can imagine that I would be using these microphones at a distance of more than 50 meters. Even for things like YouTube prank shows and stuff, 50 meters, I mean, that's 50 yards. It's half a football field away. So I just don't think there is any practical application beyond 50 meters. So as you can see in the range test, once again, the results are very, very similar. Both microphones work flawlessly when I'm standing in front of the camera and I've got line of sight. And when I turn around, we start to have problems. I felt like the DJI mic had some problems a little bit earlier than the Comica mic system, but then at the very end of the range test, the DJI mic was a little bit better. Having said that, as soon as the audio starts to break up, I think it's unusable and it's something you can't count on anyways. So you really need to be line of sight to know that you're going to get quality audio with either of these systems. Now, who should buy which of these microphone systems? Well, I think the advantage of the DJI mic system is the fact that it's got the backup recording function and the fact that it will take a lapel mic, which can be a lot more discreet if you want to use a lapel mic. I think the advantage of the Comica mic system is the fact that it is very light. It sits on the collar much nicer than what the DJI mic does. It's $139 versus sort of $329. And it has a slightly longer battery life. So I don't think you can really go wrong with either of these. And I think at the price points, they both represent reasonable value. So I think if you want the very best microphone system, go with the DJI, but I suggest you use a lapel mic most of the time. If you want something and you're on a budget and you want very, very similar results to the DJI system, just go with the Comica mic system.